Welcome to On Brand with Donny Deutsch. I'm Donny Deutsch, and the premise for this podcast is very, very simple, is that everything today is a brand. Every person, every company, every product, every movement, every religion, every politician, everything is a brand. And what we do here every week is we break down the key brands of the week that are driving where we're going, how we're getting there, and why we're getting there, the zeitgeist. We break it down for you, and we take you through the top 10 brands of the week. And we also speak to an iconic brand in and of themselves. And this week, our guest is going to be Tommy Hilfiger. So please, I want you to sit back and enjoy our brands of the week. And I want you to rate, review, and follow anywhere you get podcasts, and subscribe to YouTube. And you can watch On Brand. And let's get to our brands of the week. Our first brand of the week is a company called Libra. Now, you may not know them. It's actually a huge international company, and they're a feminine hygiene company. They make women's feminine hygiene products. They're based in Sweden, but they're global. And they're called Libra. The product that I'm going to talk about is body foam. And the reason they're a brand of the week is they won the gold line in the Cannes Film Festival. The Cannes Film Festival is where all the creativity from all around the world, from all the advertising, all the marketing competes, and they choose like a grand winner who's got the most creative kind of piece of communication. And this week it was given to Libra for a campaign called Womb Stories, W-O-M-B, Womb Stories. I want everybody to look that up online. And it was basically a 3-minute film. It was a mixed media masterpiece that really has showed the images, and kind of follow me here, of experiences of women centered around the universe of the uterus, whether it be pain, pleasure, birth, miscarriage, all from the perspective of a woman's uterus, from her womb. And it showed 4 or 5 women's stories over 3 minutes, some beautiful stories, some very, very sad stories, but so empowering, so masterfully done. Once again, please just go up online and just going to pump in Womb Stories and watch this 3 minutes, this masterpiece, this marvelous piece of marketing, this ode to a woman's womb, if you will. Right? You got to see it. I'm not going to be able to describe it. And once again, a brand up to Libra. A dual brand up for esports in general and Ralph Lauren. Now, esports, of course, is basically there's 3 billion gamers worldwide playing, obviously video games, whatnot. But esports is now the competition between gamers, that has now become a sport. It's a worldwide phenomenon. And Ralph Lauren is basically the sponsor of the G2 Esports gaming organization. Now, he basically is outfitted Wimbledon and the US Open and golf. And now Ralph Lauren is going to be outfitting both the players of esports and within the esports games themselves. And it's just a really ode to where the world is going and where fashion is going. And Ralph Lauren understands if he needs young customers, it's no longer enough to just be on a golfer. It's no longer enough to be on a Roger Federer or whoever he endorses in tennis. It needs to be connected with esports. And you would never put those two worlds together. Gaming, sports gaming, video gaming, gamer nerd heads, and Ralph Lauren, the fashion brand, where they're coming together. And I think that kind of just shows where the world is colliding. Brand up for F9, Fast and Furious 9. Biggest box opening with $70 million in a pandemic. That's in the U.S., $405 million outside of the U.S. And why I think that's of note, obviously it's a big movie and a big franchise. And after nine of them, they're still coming big. And I think post-pandemic, this what I'm going to call comfort food movies and comfort food entertainment more than ever is going to be in vogue. Now, this is not the first time tentpole movies are making noise. We know Hollywood is built around them. But there's something that says to me that more than ever over the next year or two, the tried and true in media is going to work. People don't want to go to a movie now, and I don't want to say risk their lives, but go through a behavioral thing they haven't done in a long time, unless it's for them guaranteed entertainment. And something like Fast and Furious, if you love Fast and Furious 1 through 8, you're going to love 9. So it just shows, I think, an entertainment trend for the coming couple of years post-pandemic, comfort food entertainment, F9, brand up. Also brand up for New York City. New York City, my hometown, they're launching a $30 million global multimedia ad campaign, and the tagline is, "It's time for New York City." And it's all through the lens of the Statue of Liberty. I haven't seen the creative yet. I just read about it. But what's fascinating about it, it's funded by the American Rescue Act Plan, the Rescue Plan Act, which is basically funding cities. And, obviously it's aid. And I'm not saying money was designed for marketing, but that's how New York is using it. I think that's fantastic. I think $30 million spent will generate 10x, 20x, 30x for businesses in New York as far as tourism. Every one tourist that comes here obviously affects every taxi cab, every hotel, every restaurant. So you got to spend to get people back. And so New York, brand up, going for it, spending money, putting their money where their city is. Speaking of New York and New Jersey, huge brand up for Bruce Springsteen. He reopened Broadway. Basically, it was June 27th was the first performance, a 30-performance, limited performance at the St. James Theater. He did this in 2019. He sold out for, I think it was a year or 2 years. I'm not quite sure what it was. But we need these events to signal that we're back. And Springsteen on Broadway, what better way to signal we're back than the boss? I saw the show the first time around. I'm going this time around. But it was a way of flicking the switches on Broadway. If you just said, oh, Frozen's opening, or this one, all these other great shows, but Springsteen, it says something more iconic. So I love these, what I'll call these big iconic brand messages to kind of really make statements about how we're back. So brand up for Springsteen. Brand up for, I love this one, for Boris Johnson in the UK, and a brand down for fast food and burgers and French fries in the UK. Because what do I mean by that? Well, the British government is poised to announce a ban on junk food advertising online and before 9 p.m. on TV starting in 2023. And that really shows that basically anything that is really seen as very, very high risk, high in fat, salt, sugar, food products cannot be advertised on television all day or ever online. I think that's fantastic. And the impetus for Boris Johnson was very sick with coronavirus. He was, somewhat near death, very, very sick. And a lot of it he believes, or any doctor would believe, has to be with his obesity. And obesity is a major problem in the UK as it is around the country. And what a balls move to just say, you know what? No, we're not going to, just like we don't let you advertise cigarettes to kids, we're not going to let you out. Well, they don't let anybody advertise cigarettes, period. But we're not going to let you advertise during the day when kids are watching TV until after 9 at night and all online where kids are. And that's a ballsy move. I don't know if they would have gotten that past lobbyists in the U.S., but how better way to fight it? And now, there is a caveat. A brand like McDonald's can advertise their brand, so they could do a brand spot where I love McDonald's, but they can't sell any of their food. So a little bit of a hedge there, but still, big move, big burger down in London and England, and a big brand up for Boris Johnson in the UK. As opposed to a big brand down for Subway. Now, I love Subway. Subway is, of course, the biggest fast food. They have the most fast food outlets in the world, 22,000 stores around the world. And it came out in a lawsuit. There's a Northern California tuna lawsuit that the New York Times covered, and they did DNA of a sandwich of a tuna sandwich and found there's no tuna in the tuna. Okay, let's say that again. There's no tuna in the tuna sandwiches. And there were two conclusions that the scientists came to. One, it's either so heavily processed that whatever we could pull out, we couldn't make an identification, one of the lab workers said, or we got some and there's just nothing there, and there's nothing there that's tuna. Now, Subway stands by and said the tests were faulty. They stand by this tuna. But my big question, and for all of our On Brand viewers, if it's not tuna, what the fuck is it? So right now it's a big question mark brand down for Subway and the questionable tuna in their tuna. I love this show. I love doing the show. I have a lot of fun doing it. Okay, brand up for Walgreens. Not a huge story. Just Walgreens announcing a $25 giveaway for anybody that comes in and gets a COVID vaccine. Now, of course, some states have done that. And I've said this before, that giving away promotional, doing something like a vaccine, a $25 check or something for vaccine is no different than running a sale. You can get people to buy a product by just selling the essence of the brand. So in vaccinations, we sold the essence of the brand. It's going to keep you safe. But if that's not enough, you have to put it on sale, just like you promote a product and you give a discount or you give a cash rebate. Do it. And why not Walgreens? You're a wellness company. You should do it. And by the way, at point of purchase, somebody's in there, they're strolling around, they see a sign, maybe they weren't going to do it, they want the $25. Anything that gets us those extra few percentage points that people are vaccinated. So brand up for Walgreens. A repeat brand up for Morgan Stanley, the investment bank. I mentioned them last week that their CEO, James Gorman, basically came out and said, if you can eat at a restaurant in New York, you can come back to work. None of this work at home bullshit. I want my bankers back at work. He took it one step farther. He said in one step further, employees and visitors at Morgan Stanley will be barred from entering the bank's offices unless they're fully vaccinated. I love that. Now look, it's a private enterprise. Some people, freedom people will go, that's not fair. it is fair. It's a private, it's a public business, but it's a enterprise. It's a capitalist enterprise. In the same way, they might not let people in who are not wearing properly dressed. This is obviously much more extreme, not safe. So I'm saluting these companies that are taking a hard stance on this and saying, you know what, you don't want to get vaccine? That's your freedom, but you don't have freedom to come to our company. This is still not a public utility. So my man at Morgan Stanley, once again, a brand sideways for Ikea. Actually, it's a brand down, but I'm going to give them an out. They were slammed for serving fried chicken watermelon and to honor Juneteenth. Obviously, Juneteenth, the new holiday, which is commemorating the end of slavery. Now, an Atlanta-based Ikea store sent an email to employees about the celebration and tell them to watch for a special menu that would include fried chicken, watermelon, mac and cheese, potato salad, collard greens, candied yams. Obviously, they got skewered, and they said it was in honor of the perseverance of Black Americans. Stereotype, food for African Americans, food for Blacks. They got killed, and they apologized. They said they were well-intentioned. If somebody was doing something commemorating a Jewish thing, and they had, latkes and bagels and lox and all these things, but this is not okay. It crosses the line. They apologize. So a brand down, stupid. Let's give them a pass that it's well-intentioned. They were trying to celebrate, but somebody probably lost their job over that one and probably should. Not very quick. A brand up for Ringo Sex Toys. Now, why do I bring this up? I don't even know what Ringo Sex Toys are, but they won a lawsuit against Ringo Starr, of course, the famous Beatle, who basically dropped his legal case. He was challenging the Ringo trademark, saying it was too similar to his name and might cause confusion. Now, Ringo is R-A-N-G and a capital O as opposed to Ringo. And I don't think when you're going to get a Ringo sex toy, you're thinking about Ringo. Might hurt the experience, might help the experience, depending what your, tastes are. But a brand up for the Ringo sex toy that defeated Ringo the Beatle. This is one of my biggest brands up for the week. The Brady Bunch and Drag Race matchup. Now, Drag Race obviously is the RuPaul very popular show about drag queens with drag queens. And starting June 30th, Paramount Plus starts streaming Dragging the Classics with the Brady Bunch. And what they're doing is they're taking cast members of RuPaul's Drag Race favorites and putting them together with real cast members grown up from the Brady Bunch and having them do an episode together. So, for instance, they're doing that. When we create a Brady Bunch episode, will the real Jan Brady please stand up? And Mike Lucalan, who played the original Bobby Brady, will play Bobby Brady, while drag queen Kylie Sonique Love will portray Jan. Now, isn't the world a great place? But I think there's something wonderful about that. Taking the most classic 1960s from another era and mushing it together with something so cutting edge like RuPaul's Drag Queens, understanding there's an old audience that might discover RuPaul, a new audience that might discover Brady Bunch, and I love this MASH media thing. I love it. I think it's wonderful. A brand up for Madonna with a little caveat to it. Now, Madonna appeared in fishnet leather hot pants for an impromptu bar gig in front of a celebrity crowd, and she was up there, and she's 64. She was up there in fishnet spandex, her boobs kind of seeing through, and it was these things where you could see her boobs. And what's brilliant for Madonna, what I salute about her is, and I've always said she's one of the great personal brands of all time, her brand has always been about cutting-edge sexuality. And it started out like a virgin, and she's evolved it over the years. What is cutting-edge sexuality for a 20-year-old, 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 50-year-old? So she stayed true to her brand as she's evolved, and here she's doing it at 64. My only question is cutting-edge sexuality for a 64-year-old that? Or is it a little bit more of an elegant? I don't mean this. I don't know if people are going to say this is ageist or sexist, but is that cutting edge sexuality? Is there a better way for her to show it as opposed to duplicating what a 23-year-old will be wearing? I don't know. So I'm dumb guy question I'm asking. So I salute her never-ending homage to her brand, and I just wonder if there could be little tweaks in there to make it even better. Big brand up for Conan OBrien, 30 years. He's saying goodbye after his talk show. He's had several talk shows. Brilliant guy. He started out on SNL, picked from obscurity by Lorne Michaels to follow up David Letterman when he gave up his show at the time. And, the news about it is that he's going away, but no, he's not. Guess what? He's going to be hosting a weekly variety series for HBO Max. And, excuse me, this is a microcosm of the world. 10, 12 years from now, we're not going to have nightly talk shows on broadcast. Whoever you love now, whether it's Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, Seth Meyers, whoever it is, they're going to be streaming 10, 12 years from now. You're not, it's going to be, it's where the world's going. So every week we always have a little nugget, a little iteration of somewhere in the media that is demonstrative of that. And here that is there. Big brand up for my main man, Jerry Seinfeld. I love Jerry. I know Jerry personally. He's obviously one of the most brilliant talents, comedic talents that has ever walked the earth. And he's set to star and direct Unfrosted, a Netflix movie that is about the creation of the Pop-Tart. Yes, and again, the entire movie is about the creation of the Pop-Tart. And what's so genius about that coming from Jerry is it's come from one of his bits. One of his most famous bits he talks about as a kid discovering the Pop-Tart, and quote, he was like, how did they know there would be a need for a frosted fruit-filled heated rectangle in the same shape as the box it comes in and with the same nutritional value as the box? And what he did was, here's an interesting guy, staying on brand. He's not all of a sudden going into the movies and starring as Jerry Seinfeld in some movie. He's taking one of his little bits and blowing it into a movie, so it's still so on brand with his comedy routine. At his core, he's a stand-up, and he never kind of leaves that, even when his celebrities in cars drinking coffee. It's just about two stand-ups talking. So never leaving his brand essence, but yet going into a totally new idiom as far as directing and actually starring in a movie. He's done voices in movies before, but nothing like this. So brand up for that. For Jerry Seinfeld. Love Jerry Seinfeld. Brand up or down for stick shifts. Stick shifts driving cars. Now here's something said. In the year 1980, 35% of cars produced for sale in the United States had manual transmission, stick shifts. Now it's 1%. And only 18% of American drivers can even drive a stick. It's a dying thing. I think there's something special about it. I have an old car with a stick. My kids marvel at me. Go, Dad, what the fuck are you doing? I go, I'm driving like you're supposed to drive. I don't know, there's something to the driving experience. So as stick shifts start to die, I just want to give them a salute as a brand up. Spanx, shapewear pioneer, founded by Sarah Blakely, is valued at $1 billion. She's finally going to either take it public or do a private equity deal. She's resisted that. It launched an entire category. Now we have Kim Kardashian Skims with $1.6 billion market cap. And the reason I bring it up is she was a pioneer, and she got her start on The Big Idea, my old CNBC show. I'm not saying we discovered it. It was the first time she was kind of presented to the public and her product. And it was one of our favorite episodes and one of our most kind of like watched and talked about episodes. So just a little kudos to Sarah Blakely and Spanx, just because we think we had a little tiny to do with her coming out. And we're very, very proud about that. Brand down for General Mills and Betty Crocker. Now you say, how can I ever do a brand down for Betty Crocker? I mean, good old Betty Crocker. Well, they're trying to do the right thing in a post-COVID world. They realize that blowing out, of course, Betty Crocker makes cakes and frosting and whatnot. And they're realizing, obviously, blowing on cakes in a post-COVID world, when 6 people sit and blow around a cake, we're all technically spitting, not literally spitting, but some of our spit, I guess, particles come out. So they're trying to come up with a non-candle candle. It's a LED where the light gets bigger when people sing, and it gets even biggest when they clap. And I don't know. I say, let's stay with a little spit here and there. Let's keep candles. Some things just are not the same when they're modernized. I still look at old guy in the show a lot, don't I? But a brand down. I mean, let's live with the spit particles, and let's keep real candles. Brand down for Pepsi. A little bit on the other side of the brand up of Morgan Stanley. Now, Pepsi has announced that they're reimagining the whole work environment. And it's something that's called Work That Works. And the office will no longer be the primary location where work gets done. Corporate employees around the globe will decide with their managers the days they'll be in the office and they won't. Too much. Now, I understand some flexibility. I understand some work at home. But you need that hub. You need that center of gravity. That's where people learn. That's where people train. That's where people engage. That's where energy happens. So I don't, giving up too much power to the employees as far as deciding what work looks like, I have a problem with. So a brand down for Pepsi. A huge brand up for the Texas Supreme Court, and a huge brand down for Facebook. Facebook gets a lot of brand downs. The Texas Supreme Court ruled Friday that Facebook can be held liable for any sex trafficking on its platform. You think? I don't know. That kind of fucking makes sense to me. They had been hiding behind the protections of Section 230, which says the Federal Communications Decency Act, the social media giant could not be held responsible for what a user said or wrote on the platform. Too fucking bad. You're responsible. It is the number one place where sex trafficking is happening. And in the majority opinion, the justices wrote that Section 230 does not create a lawless no man's land on the internet. I salute that. Unfortunately, a brand up for socialism. This is sobering, guys. This is something, if you're a Republican, you're going to cringe. If you're a centrist Democrat like me, you're going to cringe. That, particularly with young people, half of younger Americans now hold a positive view of capitalism, the same and half for socialism. So I want to say this again. Today, 18 to 34-year-olds are almost evenly split, but then between those who view capitalism positively and those who view it negatively. And conversely, they are feeling as positive about socialism, so obviously it's the opposite of capitalism. 2 years ago, that margin was a 20-point difference. So in 2 years, that's changed post-COVID. I think young people are scared. I think a lot of young people are going, you know what? I'll take my health care. I'll take my salary job. Maybe it's not that much money, but I'll have safety. But the day we go there, it's over for this country. We're Denmark. I don't mean to shit on Denmark, but we are the greatest country in the world, and it's built on capitalism. And that's what the final brand down for Tucker Carlson, that asshole. Tucker Carlson, what a sham. Beyond the fact that he's racist, homophobic, and he's just a bad dude. I mean, spewing falsehoods, saying the FBI was behind the insurrection on January 6th. I could go on and on. But the Ben Smith in the New York Times did a big piece basically saying that the guy who trashes liberal media all the time, mainstream media, is one of those big things, is the guy behind the scenes, a source for the New York Times, for CNN, talking to them, giving them information, so that he gives them information so that they're kinder to him in the way they cover him. What a hypocrite. Fuck you, Tucker Carlson. You're the guy sitting there going on air, shitting on CNN, shitting on the New York Times, yet behind the scenes, you're giving them dirt about Fox News. There was a big book about Fox News last year that Brian Stelter wrote that supposedly so much of it came backstory from Tucker Carlson. So not only are you a bad dude, you are a hypocrite and a behind the scenes whatever. So those are our brands of the week. Now let's get to our big interview with Tommy Hilfiger. Tommy Hilfiger is an icon, of course. The Tommy Hilfiger empire is as big as it gets. I think if you think about American fashion designers, there's Ralph Lauren, there's Calvin Klein, there's Tommy Hilfiger, and by far, I think those are the three biggest. And he's built a multi-billion-dollar empire. He has brought music and fashion together in so many ways. And I think you're going to really enjoy my interview. And here's Tommy Hilfiger. I am thrilled at today's guest for On Brand because he has created one of the great fashion brands of all time. He's Tommy Hilfiger. He has built Tommy Hilfiger into a multi-billion-dollar franchise that not only has set fashion trends, but has kind of set pop culture trends. He's an icon himself, and I welcome an old friend of mine, Tommy Hilfiger. Tommy, how you doing, man?
Thank you, Donny. Great to see you.
Great to see you. We go way back. You were actually a client of mine going back when I was running Deutsch Advertising, and you were one of my favorite clients of all time.
I remember the days and that giant office. You needed a skateboard to go from one end to the other.
Yes. And you, one thing I always want to start with all of my guests, and I always start with the same question is, what's the Tommy Hilfiger brand? What's your brand?
Well, really the brand is a classic American, youthful, cool brand. And I always wanted to keep it youthful and relevant, connecting the brand through pop culture. So in the very beginning, we were just a menswear brand, and now we're a global lifestyle brand.
Well, talk about that. I always thought the Tommy brand was you made an aspirational life accessible, but fun. That you were this great American iconic fashion label that stood for a certain kind of aspirational lifestyle that you've adjusted over the years, but there's this great kind of accessibility at the same time to it.
That's exactly right. I mean, you know very well because you worked on the brand with me. Mm-hmm. And it is accessible, it's aspirational, it's inspirational, and we say fun. It's a fun brand as well.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break and talk about some of our sponsors. I want to talk to you about Solo Stove. And it's summertime, and this is a product you have to have. Now, I want anybody to think about their favorite times during summer. It's usually outside in the backyard, it's at a barbecue, or it's at a campfire, it's sitting around and looking at the stars, and I want you to kind of put yourself in that mode. And the thing you need right in the middle there is Solo Stove. Day or night, it's a smokeless fire pit, and it turns magical summer moments into unforgettable memories. Look, it's cleaning up the campfire. It was a messy, leaving behind char, all that crumbling debris. With a Solo Stove smokeless fire pit, you can experience all the good stuff without the messy cleanup. I'm telling you, I use this thing. It's great. It takes all the headaches out of any type of situation like this. So if you're sitting around a campfire situation, Solo Stove is the way to go. It makes everything so much easy. It creates, story-worthy moments without the fireside fumes. Fire pits are portable and built to last. They're so confident you'll love it. They're offering a lifetime warranty and a 30-day free return policy. It's easy. It's easy to start a fire. It's so much better than anything done before. No one needs a reason to gather around the fire. Solo Stove just took away any reason not to. And now you get $10 off when you use promo code Donny at checkout. Just go to solostove.com and remember, you get $10 off when you use promo code Donny. I'm telling you, try this Solo Stove, SOLOSTOVE, for the summer. You will love it. All right, I want to talk to you about Indochino. And if you care at all about the way you look, and I think most of us do, this is the place to go. And it is basically, it's shopping online and having clothes custom tailored for you. It's a really amazing thing. And it's very simple. It offers completely custom fitted suits, shirts, casual wear, and more at surprisingly affordable prices. Every piece is made to your exact measurement, and you can customize every detail. I made a button-down shirt. It fits fantastic. And I'm very fussy about my stuff. So Indochino, I'm telling you, it's amazing. You choose everything about your suit, from the fabric, label, lapel, monogram, statement linings. You create a suit that fits you and your style perfectly. The best part, this is amazing. You will never get a custom suit for this price anywhere else. Indochino suits start at $399 with all the customizations included. I'm telling you, you want to look good, you want to go to the site, you will customize any clothing you want. You will never shop anywhere else again. Shop for your next best look or book a virtual style consultation at Indochino.com. Right now, you get $50 off any purchase of $399 or more by using Donny at checkout. That's $50 off a purchase of $399 or more at Indochino.com. Indochino.com, promo code Donny. I'm telling you, if you thought custom suits were out of your price range, they're not. Indochino, amazing range of stuff, amazing customization, amazing product. I use it. I love it. Go for it. I want to go back to the beginning because your humble beginnings in Elmira, New York. You start basically in high school selling jeans out of your trunk. And take us back there to Elmira, New York in the early 80s, or I guess more than the early 80s, I guess the 70s, yeah.
Well, it was the summer of '69, summer of Woodstock. I was inspired by rock music, rock musicians. There's a fashion music political revolution going on. It was protesting against the Vietnam War. It was that summer of Woodstock we all remember. And it was sort of when fashion began changing, because people went from wearing what I called normal clothes to hippie type clothes. Guys started growing their hair long, wearing bell-bottoms. Girls were dressing with bell-bottoms and really cool fringe jackets and beads and jewelry. And that sort of led me into the business when I bought 20 pairs of jeans off the streets of New York City, took them back to my high school parking lot, sold them out of the trunk of my Volkswagen.
I want to stop there for a second. I want to stop there because most kids, when they're in high school, they're either playing sports or getting high or chasing guys or girls or whatever. And give me the little aha moment where you said, okay, I'm going to go to New York City. I'm going to buy 20 pair of jeans and sell them in the school parking lot, because that's just like out of nowhere.
Well, I wanted to be on the basketball team, but I was too short. I wanted to be on the football team, but I was too small. Didn't really like baseball, and a lot of my friends were playing sports. So when I was watching the Ed Sullivan Show when the Beatles came on, I'm sure you saw it.
A little before my time. I guess I was 7 then, so I wasn't hip to what was going on. You're a couple of years older.
Okay, I was a couple of years older, and I was enamored with rock music. And I thought, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to be a rock musician. But you wouldn't want to hear me play, put it that way. I was not talented, not a talented musician, but I wanted to look like the musicians. And the musicians looked very cool. Long hair, bell bottoms, as I said before. The Stones, Led Zeppelin, The Who, all of these groups started touring around America. And in my high school, everyone was sort of like preppy and classic. But a lot of my friends said, where did you get those jeans? We want a pair of those bell-bottom jeans. So I took $150 I'd saved from working in a Hess gas station in the evenings during high school. I drove my Volkswagen Bug with one of my friends to New York City. We bought 20 pairs of jeans, took the jeans back, sold them to our friends, and then we opened a small shop called People's Place, a place for the people. Incense, candles, cool clothes, music, and I really had no interest in going to college or moving on to better my education. I really wanted to be in business. And against my father's wishes, against my family's advice, I opened this small shop. And it was a success from the very beginning.
So was this like in Elmira? Was this like the first kind of like cool thing that existed? You kind of brought cool to upstate New York?
Elmira did not have cool clothes or cool shops. But there are a lot of college campuses in the area. Cornell University, Cortland, Ithaca College. So I opened boutiques on the college campuses.
And tremendous success. And then boom, though, you go bankrupt. Therefore, great lesson that you talk about in your book.
I didn't know anything about running the business, and we were buying a lot of inventory. We borrowed money from a bank to open more stores, and all of a sudden one day, the accountants came and said, "By the way, you guys owe more than you have coming in, so you could either call your rich uncle, who didn't exist, too embarrassed to go to my dad, didn't have a lot of money anyway, and we went Chapter 11, went bankrupt. So that was like my college education. After that, I taught myself how to read a balance sheet and taught myself how to understand the business of the business.
You know, it's interesting. Most super successful people I've interviewed over the years, whether it goes back to my old show on CNBC or here, they talk about their failures as their biggest growths, not the successes. And here, you built this empire, yet you go back to this little store you had, this little tiny store, and how it went under and how that kind of informed your whole kind of business acumen and your approach to business going forward.
Then I decided I wanted to build my own brand.
You go, I want to build my own brand. What did that mean to you?
Well, first I wanted to start a jeans brand. Had no money. After the Chapter 11, we closed most of the stores. So we had 10 stores. We closed 8 of them. So we had 2 stores left. And I tested my jeans designs in one of my stores. The young customers loved the designs. So I decided I wanted to build my own brand.
How did you learn? You never went to school to learn how to design. How do you take me through how all of a sudden, okay, you're a guy, you open up a store, you buy jeans, you buy, and then, okay, I'm going to design. Where does that come from?
One day I started sketching and just drawing pictures of jeans I wanted to wear and jeans I thought would look cool. So I had them made by local seamstresses, and I tested them out in my stores, my 2 stores actually, and people loved them. So I said, okay, I'm headed for New York City. I'm going to build my own brand. So I sold what was left of the business, and knew I needed to get some sort of understanding and training as to how to manufacture jeans. And I talked my way into getting a job at Jordache Jeans.
Jordache.
In 1979. So I learned how to do it. I learned that you really had to go to high-powered jeans factories in Asia to get great jeans made. I sort of found my way and started a brand called Tommy Hill. And then I found out somebody registered the name Tommy Hill and I couldn't use it. So I met a guy by the name of Mohan Mirjani who owned Gloria Vanderbilt jeans at the time. And he backed me, believed in me and backed me. So we started Tommy Hilfiger.
Let's take a break and hear from our sponsors. I'm really proud of our sponsors. Okay, I want to talk to you about Indeed. And Indeed is a service you use when it comes to the most important thing, that's hiring. It doesn't matter the kind of business you're in, you're going to succeed or fail by the strength of the team that you build. And how do you find these people? You need Indeed. And I've said this about business, it's always about the people. So if you don't get the hiring right, there's nothing that goes right in your business. That's why you need Indeed. Look, when it gets hard, you need it. The job site that makes hiring incredibly simple. You just attract, interview, and hire. In fact, with Indeed, you can do all your hiring in one place, even your interviewing. You don't just hope your perfect candidate find you. Indeed's hiring tools help you cut through the noise to hire faster and smarter. In fact, Indeed's Instant Match provides a list of quality candidates whose resumes are on Indeed the moment you post a sponsored job. It helps you hire great people fast. Plus, Indeed makes finding quality candidates even faster with 135 assessments to help you make sure you find applicants with the right schools. Best of all, you only pay for applicants who meet your must-have qualifications. Listen to this. According to Talent Nest, Indeed offers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined. Join more than 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. I'm going to say it again. Hiring is the most important thing in business. You may not have this fancy human resources people. All you need is Indeed, INDEED, for all of your hiring. So get started right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/onbrand. Get a $75 credit at Indeed.com/onbrand. Indeed.com/onbrand. Offer valid through September 30th. Terms and conditions apply. The beginning of it's a great story. You're, as a former ad guy, I'm always an ad guy, I want to say a former guy. You launched, and I remember seeing it, a very disruptive campaign with a guy with a advertising legend guy named George Lois that was so ballsy that it was basically you were an unknown brand, and you said, I'm going to paraphrase, I think it was close, so like, and there was a huge billboard in Times Square that said the great American designers, fill in the blank, and it was like Calvin Blank, Ralph Lauren, Ralph Blank, Perry Blank for Perriellos, and then like Tommy Blank, Tommy Hilfiger, the next great American fashion brand. I mean, you just basically said it. You owned it.
It was a little frightening because at that time, I was thinking we should maybe do an ad campaign with, photographing a model on the beach in the Hamptons. And I met this guy, George Lois, and George said, "You're crazy." I said, what are you talking about? He said, "I'll show you." So a couple of days later, he came into my office and he had tear sheets of Calvin Klein, Giorgio Armani, all the different designers whose ads all looked alike. And he took the names off their ads and he said, "Can you tell which is which?" At the time, Calvin Klein had black and white photography by Bruce Weber with horses in it, in the advertising. Ralph Lauren had polo ponies shot by Bruce Weber in black and white. Armani was black and white. Perriellos was featuring black and white photography of models on, in the mountainside. And George Lois said, "You'll never get anywhere if you're trying to be one of these guys." He said, "Got to be disruptive." I didn't even know what the word disruptive meant.
Disruptive wasn't part of the lexicon back then.
I didn't even know. So I said, "What would you do?" And he brought another board in, and it said, the 4 great American designers for men are, had a picture of Ralph, a picture of Calvin, a picture of Perry Ellis, and a picture of me. And he said, this one, pointing to me, is the new American designer. And I said, you can't do that. I'll get shot at.
Right.
I'll get murdered in Times Square. And he said, okay, maybe I can't run the pictures of them, but why don't we hint at those guys? So he said the 4 great American designers for men are dash L, C dash K for Calvin Klein, P dash Perry Ellis, and then a T and an H. And he said, this is the TH is the least known of the 4, and this is his flag. Visit his store on Columbus and 73rd. So people were up in arms. They were crazed that I would compare myself to those design greats. But people did visit the store, and people did start buying the clothes. And then we went into Bloomingdale's and Saks and Macy's and all the other department stores, and the business took off.
Is it safe to say that, because I remember going back to the imaging after you launched that ad and just showing young, vibrant people, that you were, even though you're your own brand, that you were a younger, hipper Ralph. I mean, he kind of came in ahead of you and set up this Anglo aspiration, this kind of certain lifestyle. I don't call it a waspy lifestyle, but this kind of gold Gatsby-ish thing. And you were like, fuck that. Let's take that and let's put some fun into it. And let's show diversity in it, and let's show that kind of lifestyle, but what it really feels like in America today.
Yeah, I wanted to make it loose and relaxed, and I wanted to be young and hip. And Ralph and Brooks Brothers and those types were very, very boring and almost stiff. So I washed everything. I made everything oversized. I made it very irreverent. And then I started adding logos to it. And then I started doing a sportier version with red, white, and blue, and big logos when the rappers started wearing it. Mm-hmm. And at this time, it was like rappers, hip hop. Nobody knew what it was. But then Snoop Dogg wore one of my shirts on SNL.
Right.
And young kids went crazy. And the business really started flying.
What was interesting, and it kind of set a tone for kind of what I call a marketing hierarchy, that the hip hop wears it, and then 3 months later, white suburban kids are wearing it. And that's kind of the food chain of fashion, if you will.
We were the first to do streetwear. And when we started talking to the department stores like Bloomingdale's and Macy's and Saks about streetwear, they were what? What's streetwear? We said, why don't you test it? Why don't you try it? So they tried our baggy jeans, our oversized rugbies, all the bright colors, all the big logos. And they tried to talk me out of, they said, can't you just do that shirt without logos? And I said, no, I don't want to. I want it to be logoed because I want it to look like, the Mets, the Yankees. I want it to look like a pro sports team. And they were very hesitant. And they made me agree that if it didn't sell, I was going to take it back. And Bloomingdale's didn't want to buy it, but they said, okay, we'll let you put one piece on a mannequin. All the young people wanted to buy that mannequin.
And a cultural moment that you were at the center of is that the irony that your brand starts out as this kind of preppy. Now, preppy has a white connotation to it, waspy, preppy, whatever that is. And that was, quote unquote, the aspiration. Yet what ended up being the aspiration was the urban, the street lifestyle. That became the aspiration, like kind of on a hierarchy ahead of the preppy aspiration. And it kind of flipped it on its head. And the business just blew off at that point.
That's right. But then our business was starting to grow in Europe. And the Europeans didn't want the big logos. They didn't want the hip-hop oversized baggy. They wanted the real streamlined preppy. at a higher level. They wanted more sophisticated fabrics, higher prices, and that business started to build. So we had one business in the States that was very street and bright and sort of youthful, and then we had a more sophisticated business in Europe.
Can you do that? Can you pull that off? Because we are in a global world now. So a brand is a brand. And how do you straddle that? Because if you're selling a super high end with a certain kind of fabric to it and a certain kind of quality to it, and yet you're marketing another in another target and another kind of price point, how do you kind of no pun intended, thread the brands together?
What happened was that in the mid to late 90s, the oversized, logoed streetwear started slowing down because it was ubiquitous. It was everywhere. And once a brand becomes too popular, a lot of young people think it's not cool anymore. So the brand really slowed in the US, but the brand in the States continued to, or in Europe, continued to build at a more sophisticated, higher level. So we decided to take out a page out of the European book and bring back the sophistication of the preppy to the States, blend the two, street and sophisticated, together, and the global business started rocking again.
Well, because street is sophistication. I mean, that's the kind of the upside down of this whole thing, that what's driving what. So it's a fascinating story. I want to talk about music and Tommy, because you were one of the first, if not the first, fashion brand to understand the synergies between music and fashion, which is we're probably the two greatest passions of young people. And just, I'm going to read some quotes from one from a little guy named Mick Jagger. People may have heard of him, Rolling Stones. He said, Tommy burst onto the fashion scene at the height of hip hop and was instantly taken up by rappers and rockers alike. Since then, year after year, he has been ahead of the curve with his elegant and stylish looks. His creative energy has always been an inspiration to me. He's really himself in American Dreamer. American Dreamer, of course, is your book.
True. I mean, I was obsessed with music and musicians, so I wanted to dress music and the musicians, because I thought that when the musicians would wear the clothes, their fans would also come to the brand. So from, putting Bruce Springsteen into one of our jean jackets, to dressing the Stones for their tour, to
how does that happen? Wait, stop for a second. Obviously, it's every marketer's dream to get his jean jacket on Springsteen. How does that actually happen?
Actually, Springsteen bought one of my jean jackets in one of my stores.
Okay, there you go.
And one of my team members, one of my assistant designers, said that he saw it on him. And I thought that was very cool because, Bruce was a Levi's guy. Mm-hmm. But he bought one of my oversized jackets, which I thought was cool. But then, we started sponsoring tours and getting more involved in the music scene. Britney Spears was our Tommy girl for a while. Then we met this girl named Beyonce, who performed for us at a Macy's fashion show when she was 16.
Wow.
And then we used her as the face of our fragrance. And then another girl by the name of Aaliyah was in our ad campaign with Mark Ronson. And we were sponsoring a Lenny Kravitz tour. David Bowie and Iman were our 1998 ad campaign. So we really blended music and fashion together.
How did you pick up 16-year-old Beyonce? What do you see in that? What kind of sparked you? Said, this is Tommy. This is where we're at. Take me inside that moment if you can.
We were at Macy's. We were launching Tommy Girl, and we had a runway set up. We were ready to do the runway show when my brother Andy came to me and said, the DJ canceled. And I said, well, what the hell are we going to do? And he said, well, there are these three girls who are they've got a music group. They're in the store shopping. They love all your clothes. We could dress them in Tommy, and they could do a couple of their songs during the show. So I said, okay, well, we need music. So he brought the three girls. I didn't even know the name of the group. because we were so, I think, overwhelmed with putting the show together and getting the DJ canceling and launching Tommy Girl for the first time. And they performed. The models strutted the runway up and down. Big applause from the audience. And I turned to my brother Andy and I said, who's the girl in the middle? She's got an incredible voice. She looks great in our clothes. And he said, her name is Beyonce. And that's her dad standing next to the runway, Matthew Knowles, if you want to do something with her. So we started talking to Matthew Knowles and started talking to the girls and determined maybe they were a little bit young to do something just then, because they were actually 15 and 16. But right after that, she became the face of our True Star fragrance. And then she went on to become the Beyonce and Jay-Z's wife.
Yeah, amazing. Always ahead of the curve. I want to move a little bit to kind of fashion today and a challenge that you have to be dealing with, not have to be dealing with, but is certainly part of the business today. I've got a 13-year-old and a 17-year-old girl. And when I was growing up, or even when I was a young man, there was the fashion labels and you'd spend a lot of money on something that, as we talked earlier, had a logo on it and gave you prestige. And now there's, for lack of a better word, disposable fashion. There's the H&Ms of the world and the Zaras of the world who come on and they'll make, a $19 dress that a young girl can wear a couple of times and never have it again. Or, the price points are ridiculous. And young people today, a lot of them are getting their prestige through their electronics and other things and don't care as much about the name anymore. And how does Tommy, which has built your entire business around your name, and you have to compete at a certain price point, how do you start to fight that?
Well, I think globally, a premium brand is more desirable than a luxury brand because, the luxury brands are for the few percent who can afford a Gucci, a Dior, a Prada. The H&Ms and Zaras are fast fashion and throwaway. A lot of Gen Z and millennials are so sustainability conscious today, they don't want throwaway. Mm-hmm. And I think the majority of the people in the world want to know that they're buying a brand that they can trust and believe in from a quality standpoint. And also, younger people want it from a cool factor standpoint, where they can be wearing something that they say is a Tommy or has a certain logo on it that people recognize. So we think we're in the sweet spot of positioning because we could have a mass brand, but at the same time, a brand that is accessible, affordable, sustainable. We run our company with diversity and equality. We check all the boxes on being, I would say, very conscious of how we manufacture everything from our denim to, buying yarn today. So I think we're sort of in a class of our own because it's not to say that we're the only ones in that arena, because the arena is very competitive, but we're different than the H&M, Zaras, and the Guccis and the Diors.
Yeah, so you kind of have that sweet spot in them, as you said. Look, we're coming out of the pandemic. Obviously, it affected the way people dressed. Leisure wear just became everyday wear. People were wearing sweats and dressing in ways that people obviously dress when they're home. Now we're coming out of it. And I could give two theories of what's going to happen in fashion. One is, people are used to dressing, in sweatpants and sweatshirts and comfortable, and they're going to want clothes that feel like pajamas that look good, but still are just very, very casual. Or I could say people are ready to bust out and we're going to go back to a roaring 20s and dresses are going to come back for women in a big way and men are going to want to, strut their sartorial splendor. And it could go either way. I'm curious, you as an influencer and a guy kind of driving the ship, where's it going?
I think it's going to go two ways. I think people who love comfort and have become addicted to comfort over COVID will pretty much stick to that. But I think that then there will be another crowd who want to go out and celebrate. And that's why I think, the Roaring 20s is a good analogy, because they want to go to clubs, they want to go dancing, they want to go out to dinner, they want to travel, they want to look good, they want to show off to either someone they're attracted to, or start dating and resume dating. But they're going to be very conscious of how they look. And we see it happening already. Some of our stores in Europe are still closed. But we see it starting to pop already with people buying online, people buying slightly fancier clothes, but at the same time, the sweats and the casual continues to sell well. I really believe that we are going to figure out a way to blend comfort with sexiness and comfort with something new and fresh. We're working on every day. We're making more comfortable heels, and we're making more comfortable. Even jeans are becoming more comfortable just because of the fabric, because of the treatment of the fabric. But I think it'll be two ways. I think some creatures of comfort will stay there, but I think other people want to get dressed up and sort of celebrate.
I'm going to stay on my T-shirts. I'm going to be consistent. I want to talk about a little bit about your personal life. You're a dad of 7 kids, 5 kids, and 2 step kids. Talk to me just about 7 kids. I mean, how do we manage that? What does that look like? What does that feel like?
I'm from a family of 9 kids, and it was always like, okay, we all share, we all have a great time. Everybody's different, and now people say, wow, you've got 7 kids. Well, I have 5 of my own natural children, and I have 2 stepkids. And we all get together, not all the time because they all live in different places. But
the age range, oldest to youngest?
The age range, oldest is 36, youngest is 12.
Love it.
So a big range. And we have artists, musicians, an ATP tennis player, 3 kids on the autistic spectrum. We have a range, a real range.
So obviously challenge as a parent with kids with special needs, 3 kids on the spectrum. Just talk to me how that shaped you, and obviously you've gotten very, very involved philanthropically, and the challenges of raising, kids are hard enough, and kids all of a sudden when they have an extra special need, it just makes it much more challenging.
The special needs kids come first, and everyone knows it. So the kids who aren't special needs become very empathetic and loving. We're fortunate enough to be able to be in a position to surround these kids with the right therapies, the right schools. And my wife and I are very involved with Next for Autism and autism causes. And look, there are many families who have autistic children who don't know what to do about it, don't have the resources, and certainly the government is pretty deaf to it. But there's no cure. There's no definite rhyme or reason as to how one gets it or is born with it. So there's a long way to go with autism research, but we're not giving up.
You're 70, if you don't mind me saying your age. And in this, we live in a society now, particularly we've got a 78-year-old president who is doing great things and moving at the speed of sound. Naomi Campbell at 51 just had a baby. Phil Mickelson just won the PGA at 51. Age is starting to kind of become a bit more of a nebulous term. How do you keep your, at fashion, it's about the edge. It's about cutting edge. How do you at 70 keep your edge?
I just, I'm obsessed with pop culture still. I learn a lot from my kids. I love what I do. In my business, you don't really ever have to retire. I mean, if you're an athlete, maybe retire. If you're a politician, you retire. I don't think in our business you really have to retire. I may not be able to tell the difference between a red and a green someday, but I've got a lot of great assistants to help me out with that. But I love what I do, and the thing I love most is the business aspect of it and the marketing aspect, because the other is like a machine.
Yeah,
it's on high, and as I said, I've got a great team, but I like the marketing, and I like the business part of it more than anything else.
Well, Tommy, your book kind of says it all about you. The title, American Dreamer. You are a great American success story. You're an icon. You get even if you don't know you get to see you every day on the backs of young people all around the world. And thanks for taking the time. This is a real pleasure, my friend.
Donnie, it's great to see you again.
Stay well.
Thank you very much.
All right, bye. I hope you enjoyed the episode, The Brands of the Week with Tommy Hilfiger. Remember to stay on brand and to rate, subscribe, and review anywhere you get podcasts, on Spotify, Apple, anywhere. Also, you can catch us on YouTube if you want to watch video. Remember to stay on brand, stay safe this July 4th holiday weekend, and we'll see everybody next week on Brand.